Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this show is 3 things the Huskers can do to improve immediately. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but just bear with me. All right, real quick, before we dive into everything, if you want to show some love to some of the other Husker sports teams, all the other Husker sports teams, but in particular, the undefeated volleyball team, wrestling team, and 5-0 men's basketball team, smash that like button now. As I'm sure you're aware, after failing to score in overtime versus Wisconsin, Nebraska, is now 5-6. By the way, they have not scored in an overtime period since Iowa 2014. Now, the Huskers look to become bowl eligible versus Iowa in Memorial Stadium on Black Friday. Mitch Sherman had an interesting tweet. Again, I don't know that people always enjoy these, but I find it interesting. Mitch Sherman, 3 times Nebraska has fought for a 6th win in bowl eligibility on Black Friday at Memorial Stadium. 2004, they lost to Colorado 26-20. 2015, they lost to Iowa 28-20. 2019, they lost to Iowa 27-24. And then he says, can the Huskers flip the script this week? That is a phenomenal question. I know 9-2 versus 5-6, kind of ridiculous. Well, just bear with me. Okay, and I'm not predicting that we're going to win or we're not going to win right here, right now. Okay, but just bear with me a little bit because I do believe there's 3 things the Huskers can do to get better right immediately, or at least sooner rather than later. All right, the Huskers are 29-1 in 1-score games over the last 6 years. Matt Rhule is 0-4 this year in games decided by 7 points or less, including 3 of those losses being our last 3 games. All right, it is what it is. All right, now we can talk about a lot of reasons as to why we've lost some of these games, in particular Saturday versus Wisconsin, but if you go back to Maryland, to Michigan State, so on and so forth. We've talked about the return game or the lack thereof on special teams. It's been brought up, justifiably so. Our kicking game has been struggling, including our punting game. Special teams overall needs to improve, okay? Now, another thing that can be pointed out is Emmett Johnson, a guy who was our 4th-string running back at the beginning of the season, now our starter. He's averaging 5 yards per carry over the last 5 games. Yet, he needs to get the ball more, okay? Yet, he's only averaging 13 rushes per game. And only once during that time did he have the most rushing attempts of any player on our team in a game, even though he's the starting running back. The other 4 games, it's whoever's been the starting quarterback. Now, we can talk about going for 7 points when 3 points wins the game versus Maryland, or how going for 3 points when 7 points wins the game versus Wisconsin. It's not the same situation, in my humble opinion, and the way each situation was handled kind of didn't make sense to me, okay? Now I'm going to read some of these tweets, okay, and we'll put them up on the screen. Well, there's 4. We're going to put 3 up. One of them's got some disrespectful language, so I'm gonna read around that particular tweet because he had some good points within the rest of the tweet. Okay. All right, this tweet's coming up on the screen now. Last week's situation was not the same. 3rd and goal on the 7 with a shaky passing offense when a field goal gives you the lead. This week, 40 seconds left, running the ball for chunk yards. Could keep running it, maybe punch it in for the win, or give up and kick a field goal just to get to overtime. Here's the one I'm going to read around. You score 14 points in your first 2 drives, then nada. Then get outscored 24-3 the rest of the game. Okay, and it was 17-0 at this point. After that, all right, read around that. Inside the 25 with 1:05 to go and all 3 timeouts, and you only run 3 plays. Okay, we went light on the 4th and 1 in overtime, and we let Pauling kill you all night. 3rd down, no adjustments. Okay, here's the next tweet. All right, that we're going to put up on the screen. Aggressive last week when a field goal could win it. Trusting RD, so to speak, but not aggressive when a touchdown could win it. # frustrating. And then the last tweet. I agree. 3 timeouts in 35 seconds, and we let 20 seconds tick off the clock. Obviously, last week's interception was on the coaches' minds. And everyone's got a different perception and a different way they kind of view things. All right, here's my take. Versus Maryland, it's 10-7. It's tied. Our defense had played great that day against the Big Ten's passing leader in Tagovailoa at quarterback. Now we're in field goal range with our 3rd-string quarterback getting his real first reps of the entire season in a pretty meaningful game situation. Okay, we could run the ball. Oh, keep in mind, we lead the nation in turnovers. There's 130 teams in FBS, and we had already had 4 turnovers that game. We could run the ball, run the clock, kick the field goal, take the lead, trust our defense. Obviously, we didn't do that. Versus Wisconsin, we're in their territory, 3 timeouts, plenty of time. A field goal only ties it here in this situation, unlike Maryland, okay? And a touchdown is what you need to win the game. Also, we had a quarterback who'd gotten actual reps in practice with the ones, not the scout team. The week before, Chuba Purdy hadn't gotten any real reps in practice, which was another reason. I know, I'm revisionist history. Hindsight's 2020, right? Okay, they get paid the big bucks. I don't. This is my job, so I'm just doing the best I can. Purdy had gotten no real reps in practice going into that Maryland game. He had gotten a lot of reps in practice going into the Wisconsin game, and it showed. Okay. Let's see. We had a quarterback who'd gotten actual reps in practice with the ones, not the scout team. He'd played well all day. No turnovers to that point. And yeah, at that point, we hadn't scored since our second drive of the game. The offense had really struggled since going up 14-0. Okay. And Wisconsin had outgained, outrushed, and outscored us 17-0 since then. They'd made adjustments we hadn't adjusted to in return, and they were just plain flat outplaying us. This was our chance to score and take the lead without really giving their offense a chance to score and return before the end of the game. This was our chance to take the lead without really giving Wisconsin an opportunity to come back and try to take the lead back. In other words, the biggest difference is what was actually happening in each game and the game flow of each game, okay? It was different. Don't try to throw a blanket over every situation and act like they're all the same. All right, so I'm going to quickly look ahead to the Iowa game and give the 3 things that Nebraska can do to immediately become better, but real quick. All right, this show is brought to you, as you know, by DPS Concrete Construction. If you are a general contractor, building owner, or property manager looking for concrete repair or work done in the Omaha metro area, such as street paving, building floors, and parking lots, check out gpsconstruction.net. Ladies and gentlemen, great owner, quality company, quality work. If you're looking for a quality job or employer, check out dpsconstruction.net. Now, as we quickly look ahead to the Iowa game, Iowa's 9-2. We're 5-6. Seems like a mismatch, right? Okay. I'm pretty sure we all know they haven't exactly been stomping a mud hole and teams are walking a dry this year, scoreboard-wise, as far as the separation and margin of victory. All right. It's going to be in Memorial Stadium, and I think it's going to be rocking. I really do. Now, Iowa's only favored by 1.5 and a deeper dive into our last 3 losses, only by an average of 4 points. In Iowa's 5 games this year throughout the season versus Big Ten West opponents, there's a separation, okay, throughout those 5 games of only 3 points per game in Iowa's favor. The Hawkeyes offensive coordinator, Baby Ferentz, okay, he's a sitting duck. I mean a lame duck coach, sorry. This game features 2 of the worst offenses in the country. Okay, Iowa's dead last in total offense. They're 3rd in the country in scoring defense. Ladies and gentlemen, the game on Friday will be within a touchdown one way or the other, especially since this game also features 2 of the top 20 scoring defenses and 2 of the top 15 units in the country in total defense. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think some changes can make a big difference. Now, here are the 3 things that I believe the Huskers can do to improve immediately. Number 1, do things that make sense. I'm not trying to be sarcastic, okay? Bear with me. I say this with all due respect, but I went back and I printed out a Nebraska schedule and I just made some notes. Now, before the season, I have to wonder, did we have a true quarterback competition? Because how is it that the guy who was our number 3 quarterback for most of the year now looks like our best quarterback? The guy who was our starting quarterback coming into the season, and really until he got hurt, looks like our 3rd best quarterback, and he looks like he actually might be better suited to play a completely different position. Like, how did we mess that up? Was there not a true quarterback competition before the season? Now you go to the first game of the year. It's been rehashed to death, but this is where I'm saying do things that make sense, and I'm trying to say this respectfully, not sarcastically. Minnesota. How in the world do we give Anthony Grant, the only running back with known fumbly issues that have been mentioned in press conferences, the ball with the game on the line? Do things that make sense. Now, Colorado, you can debate this game a little bit more. It's not as cut and dry to me as Minnesota and some of these other things. But if you think back to that game, because I remember breaking down and analyzing that game as well or better than any game this season, it was 0-0 with 7.5 minutes to go before halftime. Okay, and if I remember correctly, I believe Jeff Sims had 4 turnovers before halftime in the first half. Now, it stalled 2 of our scoring drives, and it cost us anywhere from 7 to 14 points, so I just kind of said 10 points. And it handed Colorado their first 13 points. I remember that because they got the ball deep in our territory and it led to their first 13 points. That's a 23-point difference before half, and that dramatically affected the second half. If you remember, the defense just got wore out. Now, Colorado is clearly not as good as people, including myself, once thought they were. Okay, I never thought they were like elite. I just thought they were above average at least. Now, they have had a brutal schedule, but that's topic for another day, and I ain't shedding any tears for them. What I'm saying is you just never know what'll happen. Here's my point. How does a team, just for example, play another team and get blown out the first game? This happens in the NFL a lot. And then in the second game, they come back and beat them. You know why? Because little things like this, which can actually be arguably big things, they matter. That's why. All right, you look at Michigan State, and I'm not going through every loss, just where something stood out to me, which is a good portion of these losses. Michigan State, nothing in particular stood out. We just got beat by a bad team. Michigan was just a better team. Okay, you look at Maryland. All right, I already kind of talked about it, but here's my summation. We trusted at the time our third-string quarterback with almost no actual practice reps over our defense in that situation. Versus Wisconsin, I believe there was an overreacting to what happened the week before, and we decided to play not to lose instead of playing to win, which caused us to lose. All right. Number 1, do things that make sense. Coach and manage each unique situation differently, and don't worry about what was said, okay, about something previously. We have a big fan base. We have a passionate fan base. We have a fan base unlike any other fan base out there. We truly have the best fans in college football. The facts just back that up, okay? Memorial Stadium sellout streak. It's insane how long that's been going. It's phenomenal. 92,003 people watch a Husker volleyball match, set a world record. Iowa tries to copy it with their women's basketball program. And keep in mind, they've got the hottest name in all of women's basketball sports, okay? Caitlin Clark, and they had a decent turnout, 56,000 plus people or something like that. Now, here's my point. When you have such a passionate fan base, which is phenomenal, by the way, I'm proud to be a part of it, it creates a bit of a fishbowl. Trust me, I get it. It's not a bad thing. It can be a good thing. Honestly, it just is what it is. Okay? What I say is don't worry about that and just coach. Now, I will readily admit that's definitely easier said than done, but that's the reason these coaches get paid so much. Number 3, and this one might make some people mad. I just express my opinion. I don't duck nothing, and I let the chips fall where they may. So here we go. Speaking of easier said than done, we need to let go of the ghost of Scott Frost, the coach, in my opinion. At least some folks do. He did. He did a lot of damage to this program, not just the results on the field, but the perception of the program, in my humble opinion. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail, and I probably don't need to. But that was all before Matt Rhule got here, okay? I understand when it comes to specifically how some of these games are playing out, it's all too familiar. And frankly, okay, there's been obvious things that coaches can specifically learn from this year, but it's still just year 1 under Matt Rhule. So in summation, here are the 3 things the Huskers can do to improve immediately. Number 1, do things that make sense. I say that with all due respect. Number 2, coach and manage each unique situation differently, and don't worry about what was said about something previously, sometimes easier said than done. And number 3, let go of the ghost of Scott Frost, the coach. And I understand that might make some people unhappy, but those are my thoughts. All right, here's a bonus for next year, looking ahead just a bit. So I'll give you a bonus 4th thing. We need to truly evaluate offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield. He's going to be back next year. Matt Rhule's made that clear. But of the 2 main coordinators and head coach, he's the least proven. Rhule's done this twice before at Temple and Baylor. Now, I had doubts and questions about the 3-3-5 defense, okay, but I trusted Tony White's resume. A deeper dive into Marcus Satterfield is something I'm going to do this offseason. Not as a negative thing or not as a positive thing, just an informative thing, a deeper dive. Okay, I'll also be doing my Iowa prediction show and putting that out, okay, on my YouTube channel Wednesday morning. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. Here are the questions I've got for you fine folks. Number one, let me know in the comments below. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Number one, do you disagree with anything I said? Hey, let me know. If you disagree, let me know. Number two, is there anything I missed in today's show? Is there anything I missed? Number three, what's the single biggest thing, in your opinion, the Huskers can do to immediately become better? All right, ladies and gentlemen, the season's almost over, but the content goes year round. We got Iowa, a potential bowl game, recruiting, signing day. It doesn't stop. Hit that subscribe button here on the YouTube channel. Go Big Red. And always remember to throw the ball.